Right, today's lesson is the second part of the feed production syllabus. We'll come back to the first bit on Thursday because the first bit is a bit more boring, so I wanted to do this bit first, sorry about that. So it says you need to recognise the causes and effect of food shortages and describe possible solutions to the problem. Look at natural problems which cause food shortages, including drought, floods, tropical storms and pests, and economic and political factors, including low capital investment, poor distribution, transport difficulties and wars, which should be ringing some bells with you from the stuff you did on Seneca on Sunday. Then it says the negative effect of food shortages, the effects of food shortages, encouraging food aid and measures to increase output. We may not get to that bit today. And then it says you need a case study, a country or region suffering from food shortages, which you've looked at already on Seneca, which was the Sudan, or South Sudan particularly. Okay, so first thing I would like you to do is have a read of this definition. Okay, it says food security exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. So this quote comes from the World Food Programme, and it's kind of the ideal that everyone should be able to have access to the things that they need to help them survive, but also things that meet their religious, their sort of their needs in terms of what their preferences are. So for example, if they're like vegan or all that kind of stuff as well. So have a little look at this YouTube clip and then try to define the following terms. If you're struggling from watching that, there is some links behind these that you can go and find the actual definitions. Good idea to do that because that will be coming back to haunt you a little bit later. Okay, once you've done that, flick on and have a look at these maps. Okay, so there's one in Arabic here and there's one in English here. And this is the World Hunger Map, which is pretty depressing to be fair. And you can see at the bottom here, there's a little scale that tells you the degree of hunger. Okay, so it says here 821 million people, more than 1 in 9, do not get enough to eat, which is a bit rubbish all in all. So the countries that are red and purpley pinky colour are the ones where more than a quarter of the population is hungry. And so we should know what the definition of that is now. So first thing, can you have a real good look at those maps and then describe the distribution. Okay, so remember, in terms of describing distribution, there's lots of terms that we use to do that. Is it uneven? Is it concentrated? Are the countries landlocked? Are they coastal? Are they within certain lines of latitude and longitude? These are all the things that you should be trying to include in an answer that asks you about distribution. I would also try to go for continent by continent. Obviously, Antarctica is a bit of a waste of your time and effort, but if there's fairly obvious patterns in some continents, I would try to talk about those as well. Just as a kind of future precursor thing, sometimes in the IB they like you to try and identify anomalies as well. So if there's something that's really odd and it's in a place that you don't really get, it's a good idea to just mention that one as well. Okay, once you've done that, just have a look at this. So the case study that you need for this unit is the South Sudan food crisis. You have had a look at that on Seneca. There was some really good info on there for you. In terms of location, we can see that South Sudan is literally just above the equator there, and sort of all getting up towards the Tropic of Cancer. So that means it is quite a dry country. We know that this area up here is the Sahara, and this is kind of sub-Saharan Africa as well. We can we can infer information about that, okay? We know that it's not a very tropical country. We know that it's quite dry. We know that it suffers from quite a lot of seasonal issues with rainfall and stuff like that as well. So it says here, as South Sudan enters its 5th year of conflict, 7.1 million people in the country, the highest number ever, will be severely food insecure at the height of the lean season from mid-May to July, unless a sustained and comprehensive humanitarian response is mounted. So this is a bit of a worry, really, isn't it? Because we had this information before all of this coronavirus nonsense started. So this tells us that the country is literally going to be really, really suffering in terms of its development, in terms of feeding its people, and in terms of their health and well-being. Okay, so we know where it is. We know there's a big problem. Okay, let's have a look a little further. Okay, so we haven't done weather and climate yet. That is in section 2, theme 2, sorry. But I will just quickly talk you through what these graphs. Now, Juba is the capital of South Sudan. South Sudan obviously is one of the newest, well, is the newest country in the world. It was only created by a partition with Sudan, probably about 7 or 8 years ago now. You can see here, this blue graph, blue bar graph is the rainfall. And you can see that these are the months along the bottom here. January, February, not a lot going on. March, April, May, getting a bit wet. Over the summer, a little bit wetter, and then back into the November, December, a bit drier. Oops, sorry. Still not very much rainfall though. This is the rainfall in millimetres. And we're only getting up at the highest amount of rainfall, 140 millimetres, which is 14 centimetres, which is tiny, tiny amounts of rain. Okay. This one here is the average temperature. You can see that it's hot, hotter, less hot, and hot. So it says here average temperature of about 30 degrees, because obviously it's close to the equator. March is the hottest month. And then it says August is the coolest month, which sort of confirms what we've got going on here with the rainfall as well. So not a lot of rainfall, very hot. These are sort of classic drought conditions, really. And if you add into that the idea of sort of climate change and stuff as well, not so good, not so good. Okay, so what I would like you to do is have a look at these 2 YouTube clips. They're super short. There's 2 minutes and 2 and a bit minutes. And try and think back to what the syllabus is asking you. What are the causes and what are the impacts of this food situation in South Sudan? Once you've had a little look at them, there's just a bit of info. There is a Word document here. And also I have attached this document from the UN Food Programme as a PDF. It's 2-sided, there's absolutely stacks of info on there, so you're going to have to sort of weed through that. And also all the stuff that you should have got off of Seneca on Sunday. There was loads of info on there. I was quite impressed. I think that was the most impressed I've been with Seneca so far, is how well they did that bit. So have a think about that. If you didn't get to Seneca, you need to go there and fill out this table. So human factors, what's the cause, a little bit of a description, and if there's any facts and figures you can chuck in there, do that as well, which will really massively help you out. Do not spend more than about sort of 15 to 20 minutes on this though. That is all you need to do. Next up, some practice questions, okay? So there's some map and data on the next slide, and then there are some practice questions. These should come as no surprise to you because I've kind of built you up to that today. So here's your map. This is obviously a map of sub-Saharan Africa. South Sudan is not on here, but it's kind of over here, so you kind of get the gist of what's going on. Few questions, they're only short answer questions. There is no 7 marker here for you. So a definition, a comparative question, reasons for food shortages, different, try and go for different human and physicals, and then the impacts of food shortages. This is deadly, you should be able to be all over this one. And then your mark scheme is there if you want to check your answers, okay? So that is it for today. Just a bit more detail about the food crisis situation in South Sudan. Any questions, please just ask.